Every time you tap your card to pay, a few cents disappears. You assume the bank takes it. Some of it does go to the bank, but a slice goes to a person you've never heard of who placed that machine in the store once and now gets paid every single time anyone buys anything there. That person could be you. Here's how the invisible economy of the swipe actually works. Let's sit with that for a second because it's genuinely strange. There is a machine on the counter of nearly every store on Earth. You've used one probably 3 times today already. And sitting behind that machine, invisible, silent, doing absolutely nothing, is a person who gets a tiny cut of every single purchase that machine has ever processed. Not the store owner, not the bank, a third person. A guy who showed up once, dropped off a box, shook a hand, and left. He doesn't work there. He might not have been back in years. He might be asleep right now in another city, having completely forgotten this store exists, doesn't matter. Every coffee, every pack of gum, every prescription, every last-second candy bar at the register, a few cents peel off and slide into his account. Forever. And when you first realize this is happening, that there's an entire invisible layer of people quietly taxing the checkout counter, you have exactly one thought. Wait, how do I become the guy? That's the question we're answering today. We're going to follow the actual money, the real sense, from the instant your card touches the reader to the moment they land in somebody's pocket. We're going to meet the invisible people in the middle who nobody ever thinks about. And we're going to figure out whether this is the greatest passive income business hiding in plain sight, or a beautifully disguised trap that has chewed up 100,000 ambitious people who thought exactly what you're thinking right now. Because, I'll be honest with you up front, there's a very good reason you're not already doing this. We'll get to it. Let's start with the box itself, because this is where basically everyone gets the whole thing backwards. This is a payment terminal. Keypad, card slot, little screen, sits on the counter. It costs somewhere between a couple hundred and a few $100s. You can buy one online in about 90 seconds, and it is, I cannot stress this enough, not where the money is. You have to let go of the machine, emotionally, right now. Because here's the trap people fall into. They hear own payment machines and picture themselves selling machines by buy the boxes cheap, sell them to stores for a markup, move units, get rich. And if that were the business, it would be a genuinely terrible one. The hardware is a commodity, the margins are pathetic, and the store owner can just buy the same box off Amazon for less than you paid. The machine is not the product. The machine is bait. What you're actually selling, what this entire invisible industry is selling, is processing. The service of moving money from a customer's card into a store's bank account. Every business on the planet that takes cards needs someone to do this for them, because you cannot just plug a card reader into the wall and have money magically appear. Somebody has to shove that transaction through the plumbing of the global banking system, and that somebody takes a cut every single time. So the terminal is just how you get your foot in the door. The store owner thinks they're getting a nice machine. What you're really bolting onto their counter is a meter. A tiny meter that counts every dollar flowing through that business and quietly skims a fraction of it for as long as the store exists. Which means the real question was never, how do I sell machines? It's, how do I become the person who owns the meter? To answer that, we follow the sense. Somebody walks into a pharmacy, buys $100 of stuff, taps the card. Beep, green check mark. Everyone smiles. That pharmacy is not getting $100. It's getting maybe $97, $98. Because moving that $100 from the customer's card into the store's account costs somewhere around 2 to 3%. $2 or $3 on a $100 sale. Sounds trivial. Hold on to that feeling, because sounds trivial is doing something sneaky that becomes the whole point later. So where do those $2 or $3 actually go? Let's carve up the bill. The biggest slice goes to the customer's own bank, the bank that issued their card. This is called interchange, and it's the single largest chunk of the whole fee. Why does the customer's bank get the most? Because they're the ones fronting the money and eating the risk if the card turns out to be stolen. This slice is basically set in stone. The card networks dictate it, and everyone pays it, no exceptions. That's roughly $1.50 to $2 of our $100 sale, gone before anyone else touches it. The next slice goes to the card network, Visa, MasterCard. These are the companies that own the actual rails, the highway the money drives on. They take a smaller cut, called an assessment. Just pennies, but pennies on trillions of dollars a year, which is exactly why Visa and MasterCard are two of the most obscenely profitable companies in human history. They built a toll road, and the entire global economy is legally required to drive on it. Genuinely one of the greatest business models ever invented. The next slice goes to the processor, the company doing the actual technical grunt work. The half-second of computing that confirms the card is real, the money exists, and pushes it through the pipes. Big, boring, faceless names most people have never once heard. Pfizer, V, Global Payments, and their cousins. They run the machinery in the background and take their cut for keeping the lights on. And now look at what's left. A thin little sliver of that original fee. The leftover. The markup sitting on top of everyone else's costs. This sliver is the meter money. This is what everybody in the invisible middle is quietly at war over. And here, finally, is where our guy slips in. Between the giant processor and the corner store, there's a gap. The processor is an enormous, faceless machine. It is spectacularly good at moving money and spectacularly bad at convincing the owner of a family-run pharmacy to switch their card setup, so the processor doesn't even bother trying. It outsources that job to a middle layer of companies called ISOs, independent sales organizations, and those ISOs hand it down to an army of individual salespeople called agents. The agent is our guy. And the agent's job is dead simple to describe and absolutely brutal to actually do. Find stores and convince them to run their card payments through you. That's the whole job. Sign up the merchant, drop off the machine, move to the next one. And here's the magic word, the thing that makes people fall head over heels for this business. When an agent signs up a store, they don't get a one-time commission and disappear. They get a slice of that leftover sliver, a percentage of the markup, on every transaction that store ever runs, for as long as it keeps processing with you. It's called a residual, and it's about as close to a money glitch as the small business world gets. Let me make it real, because the math is what sells the dream. Say you sign up a modest little shop doing $50,000 a month in card sales. Not a giant, just a decent deli. And say your cut of the markup lands at a fraction of a percent, working out to, let's call it, a couple $100 a month. $200 a month from one deli that you signed up one time? That's nothing, you're thinking. And sure, on its own, it's a phone bill. But watch what happens the moment you stop thinking about one deli. 10 shops, $2,000 a month, rolling in. 50 shops, now you're at 10 grand a month, arriving whether you get out of bed or not. Build that up over a few years into what the Induos. Stry calls a portfolio, a whole book of merchants, and you've assembled a machine that pays you tens of thousands a month in almost passive income. And it gets even greedier because a residual portfolio isn't just income, it's an asset. You can sell it. Agents who build a big book of merchants sell that book for a multiple of its yearly income. A serious payday for a business whose core equipment is a firm handshake and a cardboard box of terminals. So this is the fantasy. This is the guy from the cold open, dead asleep while a pharmacy he visited 3 years ago quietly pays his rent. Passive income. A sellable asset. A whole hidden economy of little toll booths, and you get to own a handful. Which is precisely the moment you should get suspicious. Because if it were actually this easy, everyone would be a payment processing millionaire, and the person who cut your hair last month would not have a regular job. So, why isn't everyone rich? Here's the catch, and it's a large one. Problem 1. Getting merchants is genuine misery. That entire beautiful dream up there hangs on 3 words. Signing up stores. And signing up a store means walking into a business that already has a card machine, that is already busy, run by an owner who has been pitched by roughly 19 other payment agents this year alone, and somehow convincing that deeply skeptical human to tear out their current setup and trust you, a stranger with the actual flow of their money. This is cold call sales at its most soul-flattening. The rejection rate is enormous. Most people who start this business quit within a few months, having signed up approximately 0 delis, because it turns out just walk in and sign them up was hiding a mountain of pain inside a very short sentence. The residuals are only passive after you survive the aggressively non-passive part where you get told no 400 times in a row. Problem 2. A little white square blew up the whole party. For decades, this industry ran on a dirty little secret. The pricing was confusing on purpose. Statements were a swamp of invented fees with names like non-qualified downgrade surcharge, engineered specifically so no small business owner could ever work out what they were truly paying. That confusion was the profit. A lot of those juicy residuals came straight out of the store owner's inability to do the math. And then companies like Square and Stripe strolled in and asked a devastating question. What if? It just wasn't confusing. What if it's one flat, simple rate printed right there on the box and the owner can sign themselves up in 4 minutes without ever meeting a single agent? That was a wrecking ball. Transparency is fantastic for the store owner and catastrophic for the guy whose entire income depended on the store owner not checking. The easy margins got shed. A huge chunk of the small businesses a traditional agent used to sign up now just slap a little square on their phone and skip the middleman entirely. Skip you. Problem 3, the money can leak out as fast as it comes in. Remember, residuals only pay while the merchant keeps processing with you. So every time one of your hard-won stores goes under, and small businesses go under constantly, that residual dies with it. This is called attrition, and it's a hole in the bottom of your gorgeous passive income bucket. Some months you sign up 3 new stores and lose 4. Congratulations, you hustled all month to move backwards. And in some cases, if a merchant leaves too soon or turns out to be fraudulent, the processor can claw back money it already paid you. So the you get paid forever guaranteed fantasy quietly comes with an asterisk roughly the size of a parking garage. Put it all together. A brutal sales grind, margins squeezed flat by transparent competitors, and a portfolio that leaks out the bottom while you're desperately trying to fill it from the top. That hammock is starting to look a lot less relaxing. So is owning payment machines a scam? No. And this is the important part, so give me 90 more seconds because the lesson here is bigger than one weird business. The residual model is completely, genuinely real. People do build portfolios worth serious money, but look closely at who actually wins now, because it is not the guy in the hammock. The people who win in modern payment processing aren't hustlers cold walking into delis and praying. They're the ones who found a specific angle the little white square can't easily copy. Agents who go deep on one industry, restaurants, auto shops, medical offices, and become the person who genuinely understands that world's weird payment headaches. Agents who bundle in software the business actually wants. Agents who chase the bigger, messier merchants a self-serve app simply can't handle. In other words, the invisible toll booth is still there. It still prints money every second of every day. But the era of getting rich just by being the middleman is mostly over. Now you have to be a middleman who's actually useful. And honestly, that's the pattern hiding behind nearly every secret passive income business people get starry-eyed about. The passive part is always real, and it's always sitting on top of a very unpassive part that the highlight reel quietly edits out. The residual is real. The hammock is real. And the 400 closed doors between you and that hammock are extremely, painfully real too. So next time you tap your card and see that little green check mark, you'll know. Those disappearing cents didn't vanish. They split. They scattered out across the banks, the networks, the processors. And yeah, a few of them slid quietly into the account of a person you'll never meet who put a box on a counter once and walked away whistling. It is one of the biggest businesses on the planet, running invisibly underneath it. It's the most ordinary moment of your entire day. And now you can see it. Which raises a fun question, because that's not the only invisible machine quietly taxing your daily life. There's another box in another kind of place running a model that's arguably even sneakier. But that's the next video. If you had genuinely no idea any of this was happening every time you bought a coffee, do me a favor and subscribe. This entire channel is about the hidden economics running underneath completely ordinary things. See you in the next one.